Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Rethink Culture, the podcast that shines a spotlight on business leaders who are rethinking workplace culture. My name is Andreas Constantinou, and I'm your host. I'm also chairman and founder at /Data, and I have a personal passion for rethinking culture. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me Mehmet Yitmen, who's a co-founder and agile consultant at ACM Agile. And ACM Agile is a consultancy that helps companies be more agile by introducing autonomous and network of teams type of work environment that he's going to tell us more about. He is very multifaceted. He's written 2 books. He's co-authored a book with Vodafone called Our Agile Story. I was just having a look, and it's Vodafone's story of how they transformed into an agile organization. This is Vodafone Turkey specifically. Mehmet is also a speaker, trainer, consultant. He's consulted with companies in many regions in Europe, in Middle East, and India. He's also a co-founder of Huddle, that's HWDLE, which is an asynchronous meeting platform following the same trends of asynchronous and fully autonomous teams. He's also a member of Entrepreneur Organization. He's a young father. He's a kite surfing enthusiast, as he tells me, and he's also based in beautiful Istanbul. Mehmet, welcome to the Rethink Culture podcast.
Thank you, Andreas. It's my pleasure being with you.
So, you are not the typical CEO. You help, I think, rather than helping build an amazing culture in your team, you're helping other companies build amazing cultures. And when I asked you what's your business title, you said, I'm an agile consultant, rather than saying I'm a CEO or a founder. I think this was your first response, and it also, to me, shows the principles of kind of flat hierarchy that you apply to your organization. But I think much more than think about culture in your organization, you help your customers think about agile in their own companies. So can you tell us a bit more about what does ACM do and how you're helping companies transform their organization into more agile teams?
Sure. ACM Agile is as you mentioned, a consultancy and training company focused on agility. So what we try to do is to help our customers to enhance their agility, so that they can create a better experience for their own employees and also for their customers, so that they can create and deliver more impact to what they're already doing. So this is basically what we try to do as a consultant in ACM. So I'm one of the consultants in the ACM, so that's why I named myself as Agile Coach. We are more than 30 Agile coaches working together collectively. This is how I see what we are doing, and learning from each other, trying to deliver the best for our clients all together, and learning from them every day, actually. For the last about 20 years, I'm actually heavily interested in new organizational and leadership models of the 21st century, because I believe that a more humanized, more joyful, more purposeful, new understanding of work is possible and should happen, actually. So basically, I'm thinking that the industrial era described our way of working in the last century, but we ended that era, and that definition of work must change. So this is what I try to do as myself and via our company, to liberate the organizations and make them more autonomous, so that every individual in that company's organizations can be part of the value delivery, so that they can self-actualize themselves.
So when was it that you realized there's something wrong with how companies are run today, in the way HR works, in the way hierarchy works? When did you realize that?
The first thing that I realized is after graduation, after my first long job, full-time job, which was with a cosmetic company. Let's don't mention his name. And I was working in supply chain, trying to optimize the manufacturing and the stocks. In there, what I saw when I worked there for about 4 years, I saw that I need to wait for a long time, like 5 to 10 years, so that I can become a manager, and then I can start to influence and implement my own ideas. And it didn't resonate with me because I was young, at my around 34, 24, 25, and I had lots of ideas. I had energy. I was really impatient to wait to go and experiment with these ideas. And they were ideas not just for myself, they were ideas for the good, for the sake of the company, actually. But because of the hierarchy, because of the bureaucracy, that I learned that you need to learn to keep your mouth silent and do your tasks, do them good, and wait your turn in some future. Then you will be most probably able to invest in that ideas. But then I was struggling with that because I was also afraid that I will lose my energy while waiting that day to come, right? So it was first spark actually for me. Then I said that, okay, maybe I'm not for being part of a corporate cultural structure. If this is how we see the corporate culture, I didn't like it. So maybe I need to be an entrepreneur. So this was the first thing that I decided. And then with my friends, we established ACM. ACM established as a software house, technology delivering small company. Then we saw that, it was 2007, we saw that people are still handling software products and projects the way we were handling manufacturing cars in the early 20th century. But it should have changed because I'm an industrial engineer. I know lean manufacturing coming from Toyota is more flexible than the mass production, the Taylor way of doing that, right? So then we discovered that there's another term for the software world, which is agile, actually, which tries to do the same, to put some flexibility and adaptability into the way we handle the products and the projects. So that's how then in 2008 we started to deliver what we are doing by using some agile practices and experiencing them. And then we see that it's creating value for our projects, for our customers. Then we started to see an interest in our customers that they are asking how we are working. That's how then I found myself as a trainer and consultant on what I'm doing. But during that process, when I first read about Agile Manifesto and when I first read about some books about Scrum and Agile, like from Jeff Sutherland, Ken Schwaber, and some other names, very well-known names in the Agile world, it made me an aha moment kind of thing also. Okay, this is what I believe the work should be like, okay? And then it made me think that, okay, I escaped from the culture of a corporate because I thought that it's not for me. Maybe I should be an entrepreneur. Then I find another way. Okay, this is the agile way, let's name it like that, is the only way for me how an organization or how we define the work. So now as a believer and very heavy practitioner of it, maybe now I can turn to the corporates and help them to change because what they were doing was wrong. So the story, yeah.
And how did you make the realization or transition from like agile, as in Scrum, as in small iterations, continuous customer feedback, the classic agile software development process. When did you make the realization and transition into the use of agile to create agile organization, organizing, self-managing organizations?
I think it took about a few years of practicing and helping customers, because although you think that you understand all the values and principles, we are fully educated and grown in a place, in a system which is 180% opposite of what we like to achieve in agile thinking, right? So I grew in a traditional system, so I have been part of the traditional system. So although inner myself was very aligned with that agile values, and when I saw them, I loved them, but I think it took few years to make a real transformation inside me to be agile instead of doing the only agile practices by doing it. So I started to practice it in our projects, and we started to help our customers to practice them. After a few years of practicing it, I find myself that I'm diving deeper and deeper, and then I finally, about 2 to 3 years later, I started that journey that now I am the agile. This is how I see the world, and there's no turn back from there, right? Because now this is how I see the world, and there should be always a room for improvement. How we can get an instant feedback so that we can experiment and learn. How we can create a continuous value flow. How we can team up. How we can collaborate. So this is the only way that I started to question anything. So I realized that now I become agile.
What's an example of a company you helped transform that you're really proud of?
Not many, but since you also mentioned about the book, Vodafone is one of them. I can't say that I helped them. I helped them to grow more. Let's put it like that, because I don't believe that any transition has. It's not a new state that you can achieve. It's a journey instead, right? So something that I feel myself satisfied is the work that I have had the chance to do with Vodafone. I worked with Vodafone Turkey for 7 years. I also helped Vodafone in other countries globally and worked with them about 5 years also. So when I checked, I did really a lot of things in the Vodafone world, so that I can mention. But in any client that I'm working, I try to put myself into the client's shoes, but I really do it and do the best for that company. So I own the company whenever I start to work with a company. Another one, a recent one, is Latro. We have a common friend, Haluk, from EO. We did amazing stuff with his company. So I just supported them, but they did it actually. So Latro is a chemical raw material company, and now they are running fully autonomously. They don't know Agile. They don't use any Agile practices, but they are manager-free, full collectively managed autonomous organization. One of the first in Turkey, and one of the few examples in the world that is creating success by having a fully autonomous structure, actually. So that's my another example for that I'm proud of being part of the journey.
So for those listening, we have a full episode on Latro and its founder, Haluk Chanhor, in the first episode of this series. But since you're here, Mehmet, I'm curious, what was the hardest part of that transformation?
It is always the changing the old habits, because transformation is about changing habits. So this is actually how I was. I still do it like that, define as agile. So agile is for me an ability to be able to renew yourself. So it's a habit of learning, unlearning, and relearning. Okay, and it is always whether you are trying to enhance your agility or whether you are going beyond agile and willing to try to go and put a real autonomous, collectively managed company or organism, let's say. It is that you are dealing with the habits that the current organization is living with. So trying to help people be aware of their habits and then help them to be willingness to change their habits in another direction and support them on the way is the most fun and also the most hardest part of any transformation, I think.
And do you have what usually happens in a cultural transition, that some people will go fully in with a new culture and some people will say, this is not for me? And so you have like those that will join the new ship and those that will just jump off or just not follow, right?
It always happens. That's why we mostly start with the, we can also take the name from product lifecycle like that, visionary early adopters. So we always make the transformations first steps with them. But one thing that I find very crucial is even you start not real old, most of the time, with a small visionary people inside an organism, you need to be careful and you need to be sure that you put everything transparent from the day one so that the others, which are not in the first jumpers, first visionary team, let's say, also be aware so that they don't feel threatened, right? So transparency, communication, making things available for everyone and inviting them to be part is very crucial. Even they don't accept, I always continue to invest in that transparency and try to pull them to make them be part of what we're trying to achieve. Sometimes it takes several months for the others to join, but I think it's very crucial that you never stop to enhancing that transparency and inviting people to design what we are trying to do all together. Sometimes many people join, sometimes it takes time for the others.
So if you want to transform an organization into autonomous teams, how do you go about? Do you start with one team? Or if the company is small enough, like in the case of Latro, do you say, let's go full in and transform all the teams at the same time? How do you go about that?
Even with Latro, we didn't start fully because as an agile believer, let's say, or an enthusiast, I believe in doing any transformation in an agile way. But you need to, at the start, talk to all people and make them understand about why they need agility, or then what we are talking about is autonomy. What's the importance of autonomy? So you need to create the awareness about let's name it as the North Star, the utopic, let's say, dream that you have and that you think that the organization can benefit, right? But with, for example, Latro, even it was about 40 people in size totally. It was small, according to the other giant corporations that I worked. We make the transparency to the all 40 and then handshake on two things. Let's define our values, purpose, values, and principles. So let's try to define the characteristics of Latro. Okay, it can have some characters, some attitudes that we believe we currently have, or maybe we can have some aspirational attitudes. Let's try to come up with few, and because if we own our own company and try to shape it that way, we can grow together. So they buy the idea. So altogether, we started with creating the purpose, values, and principle stuff. So this was the first thing that we handshake. And the second thing that we handshake with them is after that, creating the purpose, values, and principles together. We will experiment together with you in one or two areas while creating a cross-functional small startup-like team, and we'll make you experience it for the next 3 to 5 months. With that experience, then at the end of that 5 months, let's say, period, we will all together come again down and try to explore the learnings. And if you feel that you enjoy this new way of thinking and working, then we will start to expand it together with you. But if not, then we will cancel. That's then why we started with initial 2 teams, not started to change everything inside the organization. But immediately when we started with that cross-functional 2 teams, after 2 or 3 months, I don't remember the exact date, but it didn't take too long time, like 5-6 months. The others jumped in and said that, okay, we also like to be part of this, so let's do it all together. Then we started to define how we can take the next steps all together, and also collectively we decided to create a team called Gardening Team, which we established to help the others with the habit transformation, to nurture the culture all together. So own the transformation steps for a while. And with that team and collectively, we started with the transformation. And that team we established collectively, we decided to establish that, but it was just for a certain period of time with a certain aim. When we, after a year altogether, said that, okay, now we are in a good shape and we don't need a special team to think about the culture, because it is the job of everyone inside the organization, then we canceled altogether that team. But it started with small steps like we do in Agile, iteratively and incrementally, we take it to the whole company.
And when you have someone knocking on your door and saying, we would like to try this autonomous self-managing team principle, how do you approach it now with all the experience of these 20 years?
Okay.
Like, do you have an operating system, a manual, a process? How do you go about it?
We created and named it as Revive model, but it's just a guidance. I don't like to name it as model, but I think I'm not using the word in a proper manner. So it's called Revive, and it's
Revive.
a little guide. Revive, yes. It's just a little guidance on what you can do or what kind of questions you need to go and work on while you are trying to transform or enhance your autonomy. And we also throw out one canvas, which is giving all the details about the Revive approach. And in that canvas, it's like a business model canvas. You can go and play on the questions, and it will help you or guide you with the final destination or some level of destination that you can start your journey. But you know what? How I start? I always start for the last 2-3 years, because some other companies are coming and calling us for, hey, we want to also get self-managed, but it's very hard. It requires huge accountability. So even in a lateral or even in a transformation, even the people, the employees there come and complain about they're not accountable to make their decisions or actions. Even they complain about it, complain about getting direction from top. When you change that and give the freedom to people, some people don't like to exercise accountability. So self-management comes with a great accountability. We said that, for example, in Latro, there's no manager, but actually everybody's a manager. We want them to manage everything, okay? So there's not an assigned manager or an assigned leader, but we want everybody to be part of the management, to be part of the leadership. Whenever it is needed, and whenever you think that you have the skill, talent, or the idea to take one step forward and lead the others, right? So it comes with a great accountability. That's why I always, for the last about 3 years, this is how we also did with Haluk, I give them a gift, a book called Reinventing Organizations. So whenever a company approaches me that, okay, we want collective way of working more, I ask them to go and read this. It's a huge book. It's not easy to read for many. And then I silently wait. If they really read it, if they really understand and get inspired with it, they will call me. And if I really see that they got it and inspired with it, then I start to talk about the next steps. Like, okay, how we can start with the purpose, values thing. What's your organization structure now? Are they also willingness to be more autonomous? Start to collect some information with them, and then the next step, if we also take the step forward, is to go and talk to the people inside the organization, how they see it, are they willingness to have that accountability and power and freedom. So try to understand whether the organization is ready or not, because agile transformation is not that much big in terms of, it is big for, it is significantly different for some of the companies. It's significantly the opposite of what they were doing in their own organization, but self-management is another level. So everybody needs to be understanding and getting inspired with some real-world examples of self-managed companies and exercising the dream of being like that. If I don't see that, I will never work. For the last 2 years, we had 2 or 3 clients ask it for us, and we didn't work with them because I didn't see that inspiration in their eyes. So it will be dangerous. It will create tension inside the organization instead.
What do you see most often, that the CEO doesn't, the management doesn't get it after reading the book, or that the employees are not ready? What is more common?
Not sure, because normally I would say the management level, because they lived in the other system, the traditional, way more than the others. But you know what? Sometimes the opposite is also true. So sometimes I see that the employees get afraid not to get a direction from somewhere else. So they want freedom, but they also get direction. So I also experienced that a lot. So I don't think that there is a common data that I can share with you, because I think it's about, we are all human, so we have all our perceptions, and we have all our expectations, and we have our own definition of subjects. And when we started to challenge them, it worries some people, and with worry, they want to just keep what they have. And it's very natural, it's very human way of dealing with that fear, I guess, or unknown. So you can see it everywhere, in every position, in every part of an organization.
And I guess the senior management have might feel threatened, actually, if they are
Mostly.
not able to maintain some of their privileges, like, authority privileges in a fully autonomous organization. So you might have that as well.
Exactly. That's one fear. And another fear is, you know what? They're asking themselves, if I will not manage people, what I will do? Good question to ask. That makes them worry, right? And it takes time for us and for them to understand that they should be part of the value creation and also go and help the others to be their best. So this is what we basically expect from the leadership if you have any leaders in the organization, right? So, but before that, they are so used to work in a micro manner, defining tasks, being actively part of management of the tasks, and reporting and other stuff, directing and other stuff. And then when we say that, okay, in a well-running agile or autonomous organization, actually, that management of the tasks are handled by the teams themselves. So then they surprised with that because they had the question of, okay, now what I will do. But then we try to coach them. Okay, your primary purpose is to provide support to your teams. Okay, so management is an activity in which everyone should be part of it, actually. But leadership is about people. So we try to make them understand it and exercise it. But it takes at least few months for them to try to see after they start to exercise, try to understand it, because they were managing for maybe for most of the organization, the managers are there and doing the same job for more than 10 years, right? And now we are saying that stop doing that because it is not correct way of doing the work. You have to stop yourself and do something else. It's a huge shift, and in that manner, I understand them. That's why I try to always help them, coach them with that major significant transformation of the behavior, thinking, and other stuff.
What happens if someone says, I would like to build a new business based on, what the future of work currently looks like? So autonomous organizations. How do you go about it? Like, what are the principles someone should follow if they're starting a new business and they want to create it based on an autonomous or a network of team structure?
I think the answer lies in the technological disruption that currently we are having, because I believe that the nature of the main technological drive of a century, of an era, shapes the way we live and shapes the way we do the work, how we organize or deliver the work. Okay, so that's why the traditional way of working was heavily inspired by the Industrial Revolution. So the same is also happening for now with the digital transformation. So when I said digital, you can think it like internet mainly, or take it like a blockchain. So if we go and try to explore and understand the characteristics, the main thing, the main significant attributes of this new technological disruption, then I think it can tell us about what kind of an organization or way of working will shape our future or already started it. So in this manner, if we take this example and look to the internet, for example, where is the center of the internet? So I think we don't have any center in internet, right? Internet, the digital world, by its characteristics, is a decentralized, distributed structure. So in this manner, I think the future of organizations, and they already started to be like that, needs to have the same decentralization. So the new world is already evolving into new organizational structure in the form of networks of small, cross-functional, multidisciplinary teams working like startups to deliver value to the market instead of centralized functional department structures that we used to have in the previous century. So, but I like to put it like this. We were designing our organization into Titanic-like structure, which is cumbersome, powerful, but not good with changing its direction, right? Not good with adaptability. So how we can take that Titanic and split it into small chunks of boats so that they can be more agile, although they are delivering value. This is the organization structure, I think, is evolving with the taking the roots from also decentralized digital world. So if you continue to explore the digital world, what else I see is it is alive. Internet is alive, constantly evolving. It's highly interactive. So that's one thing that also we for sure will be seeing as a characteristics in the way we see or define the organization or work. So instead of having pyramid structures which we don't change 5 years, 10 years, I think we need to start to expect an organic kind of form instead of the mechanical static pyramid structures. So something like fluid organizations who are ready to constantly change how they organize their value, okay? Another thing maybe we can say is when we think about the internet or the digital is there's no boss of the internet, right? Who's the boss? Maybe the consumers are the boss. So the same could apply to the how we understand the business actually. So in that sense, I think the new organization in this new world, the power should pass to the teams instead of autocratic top-down management approach. So we need to create small chunks of network startup organizations and empower them, make them accountable, and put the leaders as servants to these teams, helping and supporting them to achieve what they're intended to do, why they're established, right? And one thing I also like to mention about the internet is the transparency. So it enhances the transparency. Now it is very easy to reach to any data and information and knowledge, right? So then instead of having, because the silo functional structure that we used to have in the pyramid organizations are not just department based, they are also functional or silos of knowledge inside. So we need to kill it, like we do with the internet. So a high level of transparency, of the ability to reach any information or data for anyone inside the organization should become very easy, accessible, and also collaboration and collectivism or teamwork should enhance as we are facing in the digital world, in the communities and other stuff. In the digital world, people are open to share, open to work together, collaborate together. So the same should be seen in how we are doing the work. So I think, as an answer to your question, that four main characteristics that I see in the digital world should be somehow copied while we are designing our companies.
And is there something we should rethink about how culture works today or how HR works today in this new future of work?
HR, since I just mentioned about decentralization, we need to apply it to the current departments or functions that we have inside the organization. So what I'm saying is that HR should not be, most of the jobs of HR should be decentralized and made part of teams. For example, hiring. Why HR hires for me? A team should go and make the hire process for themselves, or training. Why I should expect someone to drive my training? Instead, give me some room and give me some resources so that I can go and own my own growth. So in that manner, the many responsibilities that currently we see under the HR definition should start to be decentralized to the overall organization, to the teams. And then the role of HR should change into something else, maybe something who helps their people to self-actualize themselves and become better each day. So a coach-like a role that helps their people to grow more. But the first thing is to decentralize the current responsibilities and then turn yourself into a coach-like a model that you can help your teams or your people. That's how I see.
And then if HR decentralizes, or hiring and coaching and everything else decentralizes, is it still important to have a consistency of culture across the teams, across the regions, across the departments?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's not important and we embrace diversity, and we see this as a melting pot where all sorts of variants on the original vision of the company are there, and they're alive and they're kicking, and they exist through the teams and how the teams interpret that vision. What's your view?
Exactly. I think very parallel with you. What I see is that when we have a fear of losing control, right? And by putting some principles, rules, we then made ourselves think that we are creating quality, we are creating an alignment. But do we really need it? Or in terms of achieving some alignment, what's the trade-off of that? What are we losing already? That's a good question to ask, I guess. So I think we need very lightweight ground to be aligned, like purpose, values, principles. Other than that, the only thing I think that we need to have is transparency and let the ecosystem self-correct itself if it thinks that there is something happening wrong in the wrong direction. But by giving some structures or trying to put some alignment structures, the only thing that we do is to kill diversity and innovation, I think, because I always question, we like to hire 1,000 people into the company and want them to run 1,000 people just for the same one goal. But what's that goal? Why we are using all our efforts into just one thing? Instead, I think only the goal that the organization should have, two things actually. Number one is to try to shine your purpose. So try to deliver as much as possible according to your purpose. Together with that, get the customer insight and align with it. So this is the job of everyone. And maybe in a 1,000 employee-sized organization, 50 employees, a team of 50, let's say, see some another insight in another part of the market in another customers and go and work to give that value to that customers. And other people inside the organization see another value and insight in another part of the market for other type of customers, and they do it. I don't see any value to make them act as one, and I see it as a missed opportunity to create innovation and value.
And for those who want to read up more on autonomous teams and network of teams and distributed organizations, is there something you'd recommend?
Reinventing organizations, as I mentioned, that's the book I am also giving to people who are willing to start this journey. I love that book. And I like Corporate Rebels and their books plus their book also. So I think they are a good start for anybody interested to have more.
Super. Mehmet Yitmen, thank you for your vision, your insights into the future of work, really, and helping us take a look, a glimpse into how companies will be run in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It
you.
was my pleasure. I enjoyed a lot. Thank you.